I was nominated by somebody, don't know who,
Oh, yeah,
and actually didn't for 1 minute think I would win it. The business has won a lot of awards, but I didn't think I would win it. And ironically, on the day we set off, left here, for whatever reason we put the sat-nav on, it was in Windermere, but it took us a totally wrong way. Then there was a diversion and we literally got there about 1 minute to it starting. Now, obviously, I didn't know I'd won, but the people there probably knew I'd won and I wasn't there. So like by the time I got there, I was like, I need a wee. So they obviously like pointed me to the loos, gave me a glass of Prosecco, and then obviously I was whisked in, but I didn't think I'd won at all.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chatzzz. And we've got a very, very special guest today. Jill, welcome to the podcast.
And thank you for having me.
No problem. So when I came in, you remember Sab welcomed me, and I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, you're not Jill, are you?" Because I'd only emailed you, hadn't I?
Yeah. And I think because, was it Julie?
Yeah, Julie.
So I think because Julie's got long blonde hair and I had long blonde hair, everybody thinks that Julie's me.
Yeah. So I think I sent an email, didn't you? You emailed back. You said you'd seen Tracy's podcast.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was fab. A lot of things that obviously I know Tracy anyway, but a lot of things that actually it makes you look at Tracy as a different person as a person. Whereas like there was a lot of similarities between us and things in our younger days. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, the podcast humanises business owners.
Yeah.
And just like we were saying before, makes people realise that you are just a normal person. You're not just your job.
Yeah.
Which quite common people just think that.
People do, don't they? I think, it's like she's the funeral director and not actually there's another side to funeral director.
So we're going to delve into that today. So you've got your sheet nice and prepared. I love it when people come prepared as well.
A few little bits. You're not allowed to look at it.
No. So the 3 facts, how did you find doing the 3 facts? Did you find it easy or hard?
I don't know. I changed my mind a few times because I put a few different things and I thought, would people really want to know that? But I don't know. So they're a bit random.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We want it to be random because people normally think they have to be fun facts.
Yeah.
But it's just facts about you. You know what I mean? That people can think, oh, that's interesting. So let's go. 3 facts.
So I'm 48. I've got 2 children. Abby is 23 in September. Matthew's 15 in July. Abby's doing her masters at the minute at Newcastle. She was at Liverpool University doing her masters, and now she's doing her degree, and now she's doing her masters. But she's home. Matthew's at school in college in Dalston, and football mad, and possibly wants to follow in his mum's footsteps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who does he support then?
Man United.
Oh.
To be fair, I don't do football at all. I know nothing about football. Carlisle were on last night, but apart from that, I don't do.
As long as he doesn't support Liverpool, that's fine. So I support Everton, you see.
All right.
Yeah. So what's it like being a mum then?
Yeah, really good. I think when I had Abby, so I was 25 when I had Abby, and at 25, and obviously Abby's nearly 23, I thought I should be married, settle down, having a baby, and now I think 25. You know, when I look back now and think, yeah, and like I say, I've got nearly a 23-year-old daughter. And then obviously I had Matthew when I was 33, 34. So I found when I had Abby, totally fine, and I took to it like a duck to water. When I had Matthew, now I didn't know whether it was because I was older, because he was a boy, but I didn't cope well with it at all. Don't know whether it was a little bit of postnatal depression but I could have just left him. And that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I mean, now I love him to bits. I love them both to bits. Like Matthew, obviously, is the baby out of the 2 of them. But yeah, it was 2 completely different times. But yeah, they're great. You worry all the time. But yeah, no, they're great.
Yeah. Because, so like say I'm 27 and a few of my friends who are a bit older, they're like getting married and having kids and that kind of thing. And there's like that kind of social pressure for me kind of. But then when I take myself out of that situation and I think, everyone's on their own different timelines, aren't they?
Yeah, totally.
There's no set way to do things. So at like 25, did you feel like you had to or you wanted to? Were you ready?
I felt I was old. But it's mad, isn't it? Because I think, obviously I, went to school. You didn't have to go and do your A-levels. I left school. I got a full-time job. And I thought at 25 I should be married, settle down, baby. I didn't do the marrying part at that time, but obviously I had the baby, had the house, and I did. I thought that was it, and that was my life sort of mapped out. But it's mad, like me and Russell, we didn't get married until COVID, so we got married later in life. But it's just strange. And now, people say, oh, if only you knew then what you know now. And yeah, I'd love to do school again, knowing what I know now. But yeah, it's mad because like I say, Abby, my daughter's 23, and yeah, I don't necessarily think she should be getting married, settled down. She's just been travelling all over the place. And yeah, she did Camp Thailand. She's now just been to the Philippines. She's gone to Bali in Australia, like at the end of the year. And I think, wow, I've never done anything like that.
Experiences, isn't it?
It's different. I think like how things were when I was younger to how things are now.
More accessible and affordable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. So then the second one, I won't look.
Oh, I am Cumbria Woman of the Year.
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
I didn't know that, actually. That is a cool fact.
It is a cool fact.
So how did that come about then?
I don't really know. So I think basically because I don't like the business is my absolute world. I live, eat, sleep, breathe this place. Obviously before COVID, I mean, my main thing is I like to help people and I would do anything for anybody. And I think just lots of different things that we did. We do a lot for charity. We do a lot of different things for different people. We do things that people don't even know we do. And I think one of the things before COVID, actually, because obviously we're looking after bereaved people here, and there would be, say, lots of men who had lost wives, ladies who had lost husbands, but then, maybe not having a lot of family here, but were, say, sat in their house night after night, not going out, not meeting anybody. So I started a bit like a support group, but not bereavement support, a bit of a social event. So we used to meet on the first Tuesday of every month, just go and have a meal. It started with Val Armstrong she's on Radio Cumbria.
Yeah.
So it started with Val Armstrong, her cafe at the Gatehouse, just at the entrance of Richardson Street to the cemetery. So we used to meet there, but we had to sort of like pre-order our food. She only opened it just for us, pre-ordered our food and things. Well, sometimes people couldn't come and then the food had been ordered and it got to the stage where it was too big that we had to move to somewhere else. But we were still there before COVID. And then obviously it was getting, we could get about 25 people in. And then after COVID, people were a bit scared about coming back and things. So anyway, now, and obviously after COVID, we're still running that group. So we actually meet at the auctioneer on the first Tuesday of every month. But honestly now, it's been going all this time. I think it was 2019. It's been going all this time and like loads and loads of people from totally different walks of life, different losses. And it isn't sort of I'm Jill and I've lost my dad. It's just like a social group. So that was one thing that I set up. So that was sort of like recognised. And I don't know, obviously I was nominated by somebody, don't know who, and actually didn't for 1 minute think I would win it. The business has won a lot of awards, but I didn't think I would win it. And ironically on the day we set off, left here, for whatever reason we put the sat-nav on, it was in Windermere, but it took us a totally wrong way. Then there was a diversion and we literally got there about 1 minute to it starting. Now obviously I didn't know I'd won, but the people there probably knew I'd won and I wasn't there. So like by the time I got there, I was like, I need a wee. So they obviously like pointed me to the loos, gave me a glass of Prosecco, and then obviously I was whisked in, but I didn't think I'd won at all. And obviously as they were speaking, when the girl got up and started speaking about everything, and as she sort of said different things, and I thought, that's me. And then she said something else and I thought, that's me. And I started to cry. So I sat at the table like, starting to cry and things. And then like people were like looking at me. And then obviously they announced that I was the winner. And it was just, and I can talk for England, but at that moment in time, when they got me up and like Val said, what do you want to say? And I went, thank you. So I just cried and it was just, so at least this year I actually get to go back and speak, but be relaxed because obviously, I'm just there as sort of like a guest. Yeah. So
how did that make you feel then, getting that recognition?
Amazing. Like I say, I honestly didn't, I thought I was just obviously being invited and I was there and there was so many other ladies that had done so many other different things that I didn't think, and like I say, when they started saying certain things and I thought, that's me. And then the girl next to me like got my hand because she knew that obviously it was me. And my award, well, not that you can see on it, but my big glass plate is over there. Yeah. But it was an absolute honour. Yeah, absolute honour, a total privilege and totally unexpected.
Yeah. I think it's important though, isn't it? For like recognition, you said you just do it to help people, you're just doing it.
Yeah.
For however many, 4 years now, is it?
Yes, the business, we'll have had the business 5 years in October, but it was about 2019.
Yeah, that you did it. But that's so cool, yeah.
Yeah, just giving back, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And the third one?
I'm allergic to penicillin. That's boring, isn't it?
No, that's interesting.
It's not that.
We've been saying that nobody would probably even know that, would they?
Yeah, to be fair. So if I'm ever ill, don't give me penicillin.
So how did you find that out then?
Just as a child, as a baby, I think I'd had it and had an allergic reaction. Yeah. But I think it's one of those things that I think probably now I probably wouldn't be. You know, when you think I'm probably sure I've had antibiotics since then that probably had penicillin in, but yeah, apparently I'm allergic to penicillin. It's on everywhere with red bands and things.
So then, has that affected your life growing up now?
No.
You just know kind of like what?
No.
Oh, that's cool. So then let's go into a little Jill then growing up.
God.
Let's go back to maybe like first memory or what you were like at school and that kind of thing. What did you enjoy doing? What was your upbringing like?
My mum would probably say I was a nightmare.
At least you're honest.
Oh yeah, I probably was a nightmare. And then when I look back now, because people say, you know, I'll never say what my mum said, and I can hear me saying things to my kids that my mum said to me. No, I was a nightmare. My sister's 3 years older than me. She was very, you know, what's the word? She obviously wanted to do well. She went and did her A-levels, went to university. I left school at 15 because I'm I'm a July birthday. So I left school, did my GCSEs, left school. I would say I have a really good work ethic. Whereas my sister went to uni, I just wanted money. I wanted a job. So when I would say growing up, I wasn't academic, I don't think. School I hated, got bullied. And I think being bullied has a lasting effect on you.
In what way?
Oh, you're going to make me emotional. Yeah, I think kids are cruel, aren't they? And I think like, I don't know, when I was at school, I did get bullied and I never understood why. And then afterwards in like older life, and people would say, oh, you know what, everybody liked you at school. And I think, well, I don't think they did. Or, you know, like boys liked you. And I think, well, I don't think they did. But and whether there was an air of jealousy from other girls, or I don't know, but it was horrible, and it does affect you for the rest of your life. And I hate stuff like that.
It's brutal though, aren't they? They don't understand people's feelings.
No, awful. And that's why when I said before, like, if only I could, you know, if only you knew then what you know now type thing. Because don't get us wrong, you know, you can't change things, and that makes you the person that you are. But yeah, I didn't enjoy school at all. We lived at Morton when I grew up. And my sister went to Trinity School. She was older than me. My mum appealed for her to go there. So I automatically went to Trinity School. But a lot of my friends were from Morton. So where we lived, my friends, you know, I went to Morton School. I went to Trinity. And I think, like I say, I wasn't academic. Didn't do great in my GCSEs. But I wasn't bothered. I just didn't want to be at school. When I was probably about 14, along the road from where we lived, there was a chip shop called Renewsi's. It's still there now.
Oh, yeah, another one.
Yeah, chip shop one side, but the other side was all like sweets, quarters of sweets, cigarettes, crisps, ice cream. And I can't remember what came first, but I used to obviously wander down the road, go to the shop, and I'm not sure which one was first, but I remember Louise, who owned the shop, saying, oh, would you babysit for us? So I used to look after their kids, but also, do you want a job? So I used to work like on the sweet counter and stuff. So I used to babysit for their kids, obviously go to school, work on the sweet counter. And then I did work there on a weekend as well. Then when I was, I don't know, I probably had to be 16 when you had a proper job, worked at Saxon shoe shop. And then I also got a job at Mounds' solicitor. So I worked 7 days a week, 3 jobs. Yeah, it's mad because when I look back now and I think, wow. But I bought my first car, which was a Metro. I don't know, Metro, and it was £1,600. But when I think back then, you're talking like 30 years ago, like that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
But good work ethic, and I've always worked. And I think my Abby, she's a bit like that as well. She's got although she's doing a master's at the minute, she's got 3 jobs as well.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it, to manage all that?
Yeah, I think you get out what you put in, don't you?
100%. Where do you think you got that work ethic from?
I don't know. And I don't think, like, say, like my kids are spoiled. And I don't think it was like, I don't remember like getting pocket money and things. It was like, if you wanted something, you had to work for it. Not sure. I mean, my mum obviously, she worked at Lang's, which was like a building company. I think she was doing secretarial things. And then she obviously didn't work when we were kids. And then when we were a little bit older, she worked at Kawasaki. And it's funny because I used to joke with my friends at school that my mum test drove the bikes. She didn't. She did all the accounts and wages and things. But yeah, I think and obviously then, like I say, my mum didn't work when we were younger, or then went to be a dinner lady and things. And my dad started off as a mechanic. And then when I was born, because the wages weren't that great, he went to work at Pirelli. So he brought in a good wage. But they always stayed, like my dad stayed in Pirelli forever. And I'm very much, if I go and work somewhere, you know, like obviously different when I was younger, but I went on to work at the hospital and I worked there for 24 years. So I was, you know, sort of go to somewhere and would stay there. But I'm not sure I don't know. I just wanted to work get the money, buy nice things.
Yeah. So it's important. Like, I feel like my parents, I always had what I needed.
Yeah.
But if I wanted something, it'd be like Christmas or birthday and that kind of thing.
And it's mad now, isn't it? Because it's like my kids, if they want something, they get it. And it's not right. They should work, and like, it's like, when I'll say, oh, they don't appreciate things and they get far too much. And
but you want to, though, like, you've worked hard to give it, it's difficult. I'd spoil my kids 100%.
Yeah.
So then you said at school you didn't really like school. But what did you enjoy then growing up, apart from like the working part? Have any hobbies or anything like that?
God.
Free time.
I used to like swimming quite a lot. I used to go swimming. Yeah, I did go swimming quite a lot, and which went into sort of my later life. And I did used to go swimming, a lot, and enjoyed it. Was once asked to join at like I can't remember what the team was, but a proper like swimming team, but I never ever did. I don't know. I had 3 jobs, didn't I? So if I wasn't at school, when I was at school, I had 2 jobs. But if I wasn't at school, I was at work. I'd
working. Yeah. So then when you were leaving school, was it always, I want to leave, get a job and get money? Or was there any specific job that you wanted to do or aspire towards?
So I would say, like I said, we lived on Wigton Road as kids. And you won't remember this. We used to walk on a Sunday. We would walk down to church, walk down Wigton Road, and where B&M is on Wigton Road now, that used to be called Strathclyde House. Yeah. There was like a care, like nursing home. Then it had a big conservatory on the front, and there was a lady who used to sit in the window called Muriel in a wheelchair. So every Sunday when I went past, I used to wave, like she would wave back and say, "Oh, I'm going to work there, and I'm a big girl." And like it ended up, we got knocked down, and it was quick save, and then it's been all sorts of things. But my whole from I was young was I wanted to do something in care. I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to look after people. Obviously, did want to be a funeral director, and it's obviously it is a strange job, isn't it? And how many people say, "Oh yeah, I want to be a funeral director" when they're 15-year-old? Yeah. And then obviously I did toy with nursing and things, and then I got a job in pathology at the hospital when I was 18. So I actually obviously went there. Didn't actually know what the job entails when I went there.
What is pathology?
So pathology, obviously, the department that I worked in was histology. So histology, cytology and the mortuary are one department. Okay. So histology is body parts. So say you had your kidney removed, it would come to histology. So we would look at the kidney. Not me, myself, I would sit with the pathologist and they would, cut up the sample and describe it and everything. But then end up looking down a microscope on side at it and diagnosing. So, and then cytology is bodily fluid.
Oh,
and then the mortuary is the mortuary. Yeah. So, and even though I'd always had sort of like an interest in death and things, and whenever anybody had passed, like in my family, so the first time anybody passed, I was 14 and it was my granddad. And I remember saying, I want to go and see him. As soon as we knew he'd passed, I want to see him. And it's strange because now, having a child that's 14, I lost my dad, it'll be 2 years in August. And I remember at the time thinking, if Matthew says I want to see granddad, what will I do? But then in a way, I would have let him come and see my dad. Obviously, he didn't ask to, so we never had that conversation. But it's strange because thinking how I felt as a 14-year-old, I was old,
grown
14,
up,
Whereas obviously him, and I think, So obviously I'd seen lots of people passed and things. So at 14, obviously went and saw my granddad. And then when my next granddad died, and then when my grandma died, I actually went and got her ready for her funeral. Okay. But when I went to work in pathology, I started there in 1994 and wasn't, it was 24 years there. I obviously went to stay there for good, but got to the stage of thinking I could be doing so much more. And it led on to obviously where I am now.
So you said you wanted to do more. Had you always wanted to have your own business or do something?
No, never. I'm like totally not a risk taker at all. And never ever intended. So obviously after I left the hospital, I went to work for a funeral director called Walker's on Wigton Road in Carlisle. Went to work for them with the idea that I would be there another 24 years. I would stay there and I would retire and that would be it. And everything, just sort of happened so fast. I went there trying to think I think it was the November I started there. And then probably in about the July, a friend of ours who actually owns this building, he didn't own it at the time, rang me up one night and said, "It's me. I've bought the building. You've got first refusal and I need to know by Friday." And I was like, "What?" And I can remember saying to Russell, to my husband, I was like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" And Head said, "Are you totally stupid?" And Heart said, "Just do it." And it really was sort of, whoa. And I was, in my, I don't know, what would I be, 42 or something. And I did think, what on earth are you thinking? And to be fair, we didn't particularly have a lot of money to start a business up, but it was like, But my heart was like, just do it. And it's been the best decision ever. It's hard, really, really hard. And there is times when I think I just wish I worked for somebody else. Because it is, and I never, ever, ever switch off. But the amount of love and care and what we've done here is just, And like you say, when you get a card of a family or family, so, you just making things as perfect for them as you can and as easy as you can. And it's, I live, breathe, sleep, love this place.
Yeah. And being a funeral director as well, you've only got one chance, haven't you? And
Totally, you've only got one chance to get it right completely. And the thing is, say, like I often think, sorting out a wedding or something, you've normally got a year to plan it. Sorting out a funeral, you've got 2 weeks, if that, sometimes not even that. And so it is demanding. And then I think as well is, obviously we've looked after nearly 1,300 families, which is just, And the thing is, every family is unique. Every family thinks you're the only family they're looking after, and that's how they should feel. Yeah. But it is, isn't it? And sometimes, somebody might ring the phone and say, oh, it's such and such. Now, you might have 2 Alisons from different families, and it says, oh, it's Alison. Which Alison? Yeah. But no, it is. It's just, and I think the way the business has just evolved, and like we've got 19 staff now But never ever did I think I would say my own business ever.
So then going from the switch from the hospital then to being a funeral director, what made you want to do that switch thing? Because obviously, like you said, you were in the hospital for 24 years. It's a long time, isn't it? Then to decide to make that change, there must have been something, was it?
So they obviously, like I say, I went into the hospital just and expecting that would be there forever. Obviously, things had changed. We'd moved to the new hospital, and one thing that the hospital didn't have was a bereavement service. So actually, the guy who was the boss in charge of the mortuary at the time, Paul, they were looking at setting up a bereavement service. So Paul had spoke to me, and it was going to be a case that obviously Paul was like the lead, I was underneath him, and obviously we would start this service. Anyway, it ended up, it didn't happen, nothing came of it. And then I think maybe a couple of years later for CQC, they brought in a higher grade nurse, and she was going to set up this bereavement team. Anyway, and it's ironic what happened. So they obviously came to me, asked me, would I help to set up the team? Now, I was the top of a band 4 in my job at the time, and this was going to be a band 3. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go to a band 3 wage when I'm the top of a band 4. But on the top of a band 4 job, I worked part-time after I'd had my kids. And so this was obviously full-time. So it's sort of, obviously it would have been more money as such, but more hours. Yeah. But then I was like, do you know what? It's something I really, really want to do. I want to go on. And I think after such a long time in pathology, I felt wasted. I knew I had a lot more to give. So basically we would set up this service. Anyway, obviously I had to apply for the job. So lots of people applied for the job. And like I say, I can talk for England. Went for the interview, sat in front of these 3 people. I couldn't speak. I was really dry. I couldn't speak. I was so nervous. It was awful. And I can remember coming out, and don't get us wrong, I didn't think, because they more or less said it was a foregone thing. The job was mine. Anyway, the next day I got the phone call, hadn't got the job, and I was absolutely heartbroken. Even my boss at the time in pathology was like, she won't be here in a month's time. Anyway, I actually took it really badly, didn't get the job, really, really upset me. And then...
Did they give you feedback?
I think because I had a lot of good experience and knowledge, and the person that ended up getting the job had different experience and different knowledge. But the ironic thing is, and I think everything happens for a reason. So the lady that did get the job, she works for me now. And had I got that job, I wouldn't be here.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It's funny how the world works.
Yeah.
So then what was it like then going into a funeral director's then for the first time? So obviously working in there.
Yeah, so when I'd handed my notice in and I was leaving, and actually this is mad because I remember thinking, for all I used to go in the mortuary most days, I didn't actually know if I could touch somebody. It's different touching a loved one, but I didn't actually know if I could touch someone that passed away. And I had a full day in the mortuary before I left, and actually was fine. Obviously, I went to the funeral directors, wasn't quite sure what to expect. And I think some people think that a funeral director, you go out, you see the family, you make all the arrangements, you put your top hat on and you conduct the funeral, not actually what you're doing between
Wish
that.
It was that easy.
Yeah. And I think, obviously, when I first opened the business, I was, going out, seeing families, bringing loved ones into care here. I was making coffins. I was doing order of service, organising flower. I did every single mortal thing because I was here on my own. And actually, when I look back now, I don't know how I did it. I had a team of bearers that were casual staff that would come in and out now and then when I needed to go to the hospital and things, but it was just me. I used to lock the door, take the phone with me, and off I would go out. And it's just crazy from where I was to obviously where I am now.
So you said about that phone call then about taking this place over. So how long had you been working at that other funeral director?
So probably 8-9 months. So that's why it was so massive.
So you said it was November to the July.
Yeah.
And then, so how many, that's not long at all, is it?
No, that's what, 8 months.
Yeah. And then you got the phone call. And then how long did you have? 7 days? Or?
Oh no, so obviously I got the phone call basically, I think he rang me say on the Tuesday and said, I've got
by the Friday.
I need to know by the Friday. So obviously it was a massive decision to make.
So what was going through, like you said, you weren't really sure. So when do you remember the decisive moment of, I'm going to do it? You said it was your heart, wasn't it? That did it, but...
I mean, I think it was, head was saying you are absolutely stupid. Heart was sort of, now, like my hubby is like amazing. He's the best husband in the whole entire world. I'm very lucky. And obviously he had faith in me and obviously thought, we can do it. And we basically pulled money together from wherever we could. And it obviously decided we would take the business on. Obviously had to do it in secret because I still worked for a funeral director. So it was really hard. And I did not have any intention of, I didn't intend on going there, leaving and I intended on being there forever.
Sure.
But like I say, we had the opportunity, we went with it. Obviously when my bosses sort of found out, I did get to work my notice and things. And I didn't intend on doing what I did. But yeah.
What was the process like then, setting it up?
To be honest, I didn't know where to start because I'd never had a business. But, I'd never had a business before. I didn't know sort of, and I would say my job and what I do, I'm good at my job. I'm brilliant at my job.
Yeah.
But obviously setting up a business and things and sort of, and obviously because we'd say where we ordered coffins from, where I had a good knowledge in the fact that when I went to work with the funeral directors, because of my job that I'd done in pathology, we used to sort all the cremation paperwork out. I used to deal with all the other funeral directors. I also did a lot of work for the coroner and things. So when you've got a post-mortem, you have to give consent for your tissues, what happens to them afterwards. So I did work with the Human Tissue Authority and things like that. So I had a good knowledge. And obviously being in the mortuary, I'd seen a lot of different things. And paperwork-wise, I stood in good stead for setting up my own business. And having been with Walkers for, 7-8 months, I knew what I was doing. But, when you think, I don't know, there was doubts, but nah, I think once I make my mind up to do something, I do it and I do it 110%.
Yeah.
So I knew, I didn't know it would necessarily work. There was lots of people that said, I won't, she won't last, it'll fail.
You don't listen to them people, do they?
Nah. And I did. And I think in a way it's not a bad thing. Because even still now, sometimes I'll have a little wobble and doubt myself and people are like, what? But to know you
always have that voice in your head though, don't you?
Oh, totally.
Always.
Yeah,
totally. Self-doubt, but then, like you say, you've got that mission or that drive to progress forward.
I think sometimes it's a strange kind of industry where sometimes you go a little bit quiet and then you think, why has it gone so quiet? And then the next week it's like, boom. And it's just, whoa, we should have enjoyed last week. And obviously times like that gives you time to catch up on things and do things that you don't get the chance to do. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like then? Setting it up with 2 kids, because your kids would have been like 10 and 18ish, like that.
Matthew, so we're 5 years. So Matthew's you're right.
That's the thing, being a full-time mum and setting up a business that you never set up before.
I know. And I think, so obviously when I worked at the hospital, I only worked 3 days. So when I went to work for Walkers, I ended up being full-time and going out on call. So then obviously setting up here, it was me 24/7. And that's the thing as well, people don't realise. You're open you're at the end of the phone 24/7. I think at the start, and obviously because at the start it was quite quiet. So like I say, sometimes I would put the phone through, put the phone on to divert, go off out in the car. And there was time, I would meet my friend for coffee or we would do things because it was like I waited for the phone to ring. Excuse me. But I don't know. I just got on with it. Yeah. And the kids, to be fair, the kids are great. And I always remember, obviously they've been they know what I do. They're involved sometimes, obviously, and even Abby, they've never seen anybody passed away here. But I remember going to collect coffins and things from our supplier, and Matthew would come with me, or Matthew would be helping me take coffins out of the van and things, thinking this is a bit strange. And once asking for something out of the fridge, and I had to say, it's not that kind of fridge. But, but no, the kids, like I said, they were fully supportive. Russell's great. And and my family, everybody was really supportive. I remember when I obviously told my mum and dad, I was scared to tell them.
Oh, yeah.
I think when I
Why?
left, I think when I left the job at the hospital, I can remember being in the airport and we were all going on holiday together. And I remember saying to my dad, "Oh, got a new job." Now, I always thought it'd be mum that was worse than my dad. And he was like, "Oh, well, what about your pension? What about this? What about that?" And obviously, yeah, because I'd been at the hospital for such a long time and they probably thought I was bonkers. But yeah, I went to obviously, like I say, work at Walkers and then set up myself. But more so, obviously they knew I'd gone to Walkers. I had a full-time job. It was a reputable business, and it was like, I'm going to go and set up on my own. And I think at the start, they probably thought I was stupid. And then I remember my mum saying, "You should have done this years ago." But years ago, I wouldn't have had the maturity. The kids wouldn't have been older. Yeah.
And you said that you always thought you could offer more then. So then doing this, then how do you offer more then? Personally, because I imagine that's a personal thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think where I worked when I went to do my training, obviously is owned by a big national company. So my hands were tied. And don't get me wrong, it is different when it's your own business. But even the staff that work here now, your hands aren't tied. If I go and see a family and I'm with them for 2.5 hours, that's what they need. Basically all the staff know. So if Peter goes out, if Claire goes out, if you're out for whatever length of time, that's what that family needs. It's not sort of like you've got about an hour and then you need to be back. Even things like, I don't know, we do lots of different things and say you're talking to a family and they say they want a photo, for the service. And I might think, actually, what colour? I take note of what kind of photo frames they've got in the house. So we would maybe go and make sure it's the same frame. And just different things. And I just think independent funeral directors are very different to national companies because it is a lot more personal. We set up, like with our families, we set up like a WhatsApp group. So me and family members in that I'm looking after will be in a WhatsApp group. They ping me any time of day or night that they want. And don't get us wrong, sometimes it is, can be any random time. But when you're grieving, when you're bereaved, you've got no concept of time and things. And if you want to say, "Oh God, what about this?" and ping me a message or give me a ring, and we're there all the time. And I think even as well, like when people ring, they don't get a call centre. They get me or Peter or Claire at the end of the phone if it's out of hours. And yeah, it's just very different. And like I say, we give fantastic care, even like downstairs. So the girls downstairs in our mortuary, we've got 2 girls here that get everybody ready. So for me, I think that's really important. So I think men probably don't mind, but whereas if you're looking after a lady, so say, we've just had a lady pass before, and like when I spoke to her daughter and the lady's daughter and lady's son, and I said, when we come to get mum ready, it's only females that'll have any part in her personal care. Now, I think that's nice because I think when I pass, I would rather have, not that there's anything against men,
sure.
I think it's, and even like sometimes, we've looked after children here, babies here, and I'm a mum, and I think, well,
it's that woman's touch, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, there's brilliant male funeral directors, but I think just the whole female thing is a good thing.
It's a little personalised touches like that, isn't it, that makes a big difference. Because loads of funeral directors are being bought up, aren't they, by the national corporations and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few letters and things to see if they can buy us. And
I can imagine,
try to close them, be bought out by a national company. I'll never sell the business to a national company, ever.
Oh, it's a funny one, the funeral industry, isn't it? Yeah. So then what was the plan then when you opened? Like you said, you were a bit quiet, but then when did things kind of pick up, do you reckon? So you couldn't go for tea or coffee during the day?
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. So no, before I first opened, so we were opened on the Monday, the 8th of October, and the plan was that Saturday and Sunday I was going to open. So basically, you can come here. We're going to have an open house type thing. You can come here, have a look around wherever you want to go, ask me anything, before we basically open on Monday. And probably people thought, that's a bit strange. Why would you want to go and look around the funeral directors? But the amount of people like, or if I say what I do, what about this? What about this? And so that open weekend, and again, it's bizarre what happened. So that open weekend, we had the Saturday, we were open and lots of people came in. And obviously, we've got the chapel rooms downstairs and then the mortuary. Now, I did say to people, if you want to go in the mortuary, you can. You don't have to if you don't want to, because obviously some people don't want to go in there, but maybe just wanted to see the premises. So some people did go through. Some people were like, can we look in the fridges? And I was like, well, yeah, of course you can, because we were empty. Nobody had even been in here that had passed. And then on the Saturday night, one of my friends, her mum died, and she often does a charity thing for her mum. And that Saturday night, they had a charity event. So we'd bought a table for the event. with some of the staff that were like casual staff here. And we went to this event. Sorry, no, I was getting ready for the event. I was getting ready for the event at home and whatever time it was. And they got a phone call from one of my friends and she said, Jill, my dad's died. And obviously we weren't open. We were opening on the Monday. We were fully ready. But she said, oh, my dad's died and he'd passed at Eden Valley Hospice. And I said, don't worry, absolutely fine. So anyway, I spoke to Eden Valley Hospice and they were like, oh, can you come at, I think it was 10 or 10:30 that night. So anyway, we carried on getting ready. We went to the event, I think it was at the Shepherd's Inn. We went to the event at the Shepherd's Inn, all proper dicky bow tie and ball gown. Went to the event in the middle of the event. And the thing was, we couldn't say to the staff and our friends where we were going. The person that had passed was from this village. So obviously we couldn't, nobody knew. So me and Russell said, oh, we've just got to nip out for a while. So we went in the toilets at the Shepherd's Inn, got changed into our suits, got in the car, went to Eden Valley Hospice, brought my friend's dad back here, did what we needed to do, put my dress back on in the mortuary downstairs. Yeah, we went back.
That's amazing,
yeah. And so that was the first person that came in. Obviously it was a friend. And then on the Monday I opened and I did think, oh, could be weeks till anybody rings. And on the Monday somebody rang. And when you actually at the start, I thought, this is a whore.
What's going on?
No. And that was, and yet the first day we had,
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's mad because in some people ask me, oh, how many people do you think you'll care for in the first year? So I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
But we looked after 82 families in the first year, which for a new funeral director was massive. Yeah. And it's just doubled. And like I said, we've looked after nearly 1,300 people now.
That's a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then what did you want to do differently then to when working in the Nationals? I know you said it's important to be independent, isn't it? Yeah. And independent, you can go and be personalised and that kind of thing. And what was really the things that you wanted to put in place to make sure that you stood out?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to be able to do everything for that family if they wanted us to do everything. But say sometime, like we arrange everything from obviously bringing their loved one into care to doing the newspapers, the order of service, the flowers, the funeral tea. Some independent companies will be sort out your own tea, sort out your own flowers. And just, it's hard to explain, just obviously procedures and processes that they may do. Obviously some things are necessary, but there's some things that I would never do. So when I came here, it was like, I will never do that. And I never have, and I never will. And just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's just very, very different. And say I'm not saying that, we did occasionally go and see families on a weekend and things, but it's just, it's hard to explain, but it's just very different in the service we provide. And also cost. Obviously national companies have bigger overheads and charge more money. And also when we bring someone into care, they're here. Not every funeral director cares for their deceased in the same place. So obviously when we bring someone from wherever it may be, they're here. So now there's lots of people here. But, just different things. And obviously I know what happens behind the scenes. One of the things, we're accredited by 2 governing bodies.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Which you don't have to be. So for me, and we are the only funeral director in Carlisle that's accredited by both.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the National Association of Funeral Directors, which is the likes of the COPE and Dignity, are accredited by them. But then SAFE, which is the Society of Allied Independent Funeral Directors, that's only for independent funeral directors. We're accredited by them as well, but we are the only funeral directors.
That's interesting, yeah, because funeral directors is an unregulated industry, isn't it? And like I say, I know a little bit about funerals, and the funeral director I work with, they're accredited by both. And it's interesting because people can literally just pop up, can't they? Set up a Facebook page and then just like hire out to other people and then get it done, and they don't really care, and they can just do like cheap service, which isn't, you've only got one chance, like you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So why is it important for you then to get them?
What, the accreditations? Just to show people that we are doing things properly. We get inspected yearly. Think certain things that you have to have, like to be accredited by SAFE. Obviously, you've got lots of procedures, processes, paperwork, but you have to have 2 sinks and you have to have fridges. So for me, and even when I set up here, and don't get me wrong, it's not a nice thing to think about, but it retains that person's dignity, and it also means that family can come and see them right up until the funeral day most of the time. So for me, it was a big thing, and here it was one of the biggest outlays at the start was having bridges in before we opened, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. But obviously, some people don't have bridges.
Yeah. So then, how did things So obviously you opened and then COVID happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
So that was obviously a massive thing. How did you adapt and what was it like?
Yeah, I think obviously we'd started the business in October 18 and, lots of people after COVID were like, oh, you set up at the right time. I thought, well, I set up before COVID. I didn't know COVID was coming. And COVID was awful. It really was awful for me. And I made a video one night in there. I was on my knees. I hadn't slept. I was just about, I maybe think what I even was in tears that went viral. That basically, because people weren't listening to the rules, people were going out. I think things have changed now, haven't they? But we were seeing people die. We were seeing, young people die and say families that say you waved bye to grandma. She went in an ambulance. She couldn't go with her. And you never ever saw grandma again. So those families or that husband of that lady, let's say, wasn't allowed in the hospital to see her, wasn't even allowed to say a proper goodbye to her. We had to go to the hospital and close the coffin there and then, and they weren't allowed to see them. We lost a family member and I had to say, it was my husband's cousin's mum. And we had to say to Stacey, Russell's cousin, you can't see your mum. And that's something that will stay with me forever because I got to see her mum when I went to the hospital for her. And I personally went for her because she was family, but I saw Nora, but I had to say to our family, you can't see her. And the thing was, it wasn't one rule for one and another for another because that's how it was. And that will live with me forever because I felt awful that she couldn't see mum, but loads of other people couldn't see their mums or husbands and it was awful. And I think for all, we had more time in the fact we weren't seeing people face to face because we weren't having chapel visits, things like that. But at one point we had 28 people in here, 28 people downstairs, and it was awful. It really was awful.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then what were the funerals like then? Because obviously there was restrictions on the numbers.
Awful. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of direct cremations where obviously you basically go to the crematorium, nobody's there, you take the person in. I think some good and obviously a lot of bad came out of COVID, but a lot of good did as well. Some of the services there were only allowed sort of 12 people in. Afterwards, people sort of were saying, I really liked that. It was personal, it was intimate, there was just us there type thing. And a lot of people now have said, we just want small funerals. And a lot of people have gone with the idea of direct cremations. We do a lot of direct cremations now.
I was going to say, yeah, that seems to be a big trend since COVID, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're obviously like the low cost options, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's a company that spend a lot of marketing budget, isn't there, on it?
Yeah.
So how have you found that then? Have a lot of more people been going for the low cost compared to the traditional ones, or
yes,
more like cremations but attended?
Yeah, yes and no. Like we do a lot more direct cremations than we ever used to, and I think that is because of COVID. One of the things that we do, so if we're doing a direct cremation, and it's not necessarily always the family's choice, it could be that person's choice. So we had a lady who wanted a direct cremation. She passed away. We went for her, we brought her here. Now we still allow our families to come and pay the respects, to come and see their loved one. Obviously, on the day of the direct cremation, we still go with the hearse. We still suited and booed. We have the bearers there. We do everything exactly the same. And sometimes families need a little bit of closure. So this family at the time, you are sort of allowed to be in the grounds of the crematorium, but you're not allowed to be under the arch and things. And this family, the husband actually brought the dog to the direct cremation. They just waited outside. And when we brought the lady out, the dog started to cry.
No
it was just,
way.
Yeah, it was just surreal. But I think still, like I say, this lady wanted the direct cremation. I don't necessarily think her husband did or her daughter did. And that's hard because if my mum and dad had said to me, often we do funeral plans in here and a family will be sat like we are now and say, you want to do direct cremation. I said, have you spoken to your children about it? No. And I think, and it's personal choice. But had my mum and dad gone and, I didn't do this job and they'd arranged to have a direct cremation and got a plan, then say when my dad died, my mum said, actually your dad's having a direct cremation, I would have been heartbroken because I think you do need some closure. You do need to be able to say goodbye, but then everyone's different, and that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think as well, like more and more people are getting the direct cremations, aren't they? But they don't really understand, like you say, what it actually is. And I was speaking to my mum and dad about it the other day, and my mum was saying, oh yeah, I'll just get a direct cremation or whatever. And I was saying, well, I'd want to go to it. You know what I mean? Think of like us, because we're the ones that are going to be left behind. And I feel like more and more people as time goes on realising these direct cremations aren't like the perfect way to say goodbye, are they?
Yeah.
So it is difficult. So then how have you found kind of like as time's gone on after COVID?
Yeah.
And what did you said you learnt a lot from that period in COVID. What did you utilise afterwards, and what did you kind of revert back to? Because I know COVID, you probably did loads of Zooms or Skypes or phone calls, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you did change that back to the in-person.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you kind of continued that you thought, that's improved as a business?
One thing that we did continue, so at the time where we couldn't see families, and we were ringing people and saying, right, we're going to come to the door at 10 o'clock. We'll knock on the door, post the paperwork through the letterbox, and you sign it and post it back out. So things like, so we composed an email during COVID that we sent out to families with everything on. So we've continued to do that because, say for instance, I may have spoke to a lady just before and her mum's died and she's got a brother. So I've obviously explained everything to her on the phone. But then when she's come off that phone, she's probably thought, what did she say then? What do I do about registration? What do I do about this? So every single thing that we send out is all in that email so they can go back to it, and also they can forward it on to their family members. And then when we actually come to meet up with them, so things like in there is, where do you want to meet? The day of the service, do you want to leave from home? Do you want a hearse? Do you want limousines? That we can sort flowers, newspaper notes, everything. So they know they've basically got what we're going to go through when we meet up with them. So that's been like really, really good.
Yeah.
I think it was nice to be able to like look after people again, and to be able, because at the time during COVID we couldn't wash people, we couldn't dress people, we couldn't do anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously not allowing people to come and see their loved ones. It was cruel, it really was. And I think because things changed, so at one point we had to take a coffin to the hospital and close it there and then say a month, 2 months, however long later, we didn't have to do that anymore. Well, what about all those people that couldn't say goodbye the months before? Why did the rules need to change, and why then could they see their families? Because it's wrong.
Didn't make any sense,
No,
did it?
not at all. Well,
so then you mentioned about the pre-planned funerals then.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is?
Sensible, I think. Yeah, I think, obviously before I did this job, I didn't think anything about funeral planning and things like that. But I think it is really sensible because we do our funeral plans with Golden Charter. You pay today's prices, so obviously we work out what the funeral's going to cost and that's what you pay. You can pay the whole lot in a lump sum. You can pay it over a year interest free. But it is sensible. And also the amount of families we sometimes have sat here and we'll say, what did Dad want? I don't know. Did he want buried or cremated? I don't know. And he was like, what music? And it is, and I think it takes a lot of pressure off your family.
It can cause conflict, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got my wishes on the laptop, and bizarrely, I had COVID again for the third time.
That's impressive.
I had COVID again for the third time, probably about 6 weeks ago, and I was really poorly. I was in bed for 11 days. Yeah, like really poorly. And during that time, one night, I changed my wishes on the computer, just something, a piece of music.
Yeah.
Because I really was unwell. But it is sensible. It is sensible because, like I say, we're looking after a man at the minute. And when his family came, I was like, right, he wants this music going in. He wants this coffin. He picked his coffin specifically because he was having a unique coffin. Every single thing that he wanted. He didn't want the curtain going round, but like specific. But it was absolute doddle for that family because it was like this, and all sorted. So it is sensible. I think the way the world's going and money and it is. And I think even just putting a little bit aside, families will come to us and say, like if we say how much a funeral plan is, obviously because there's an admin fee on a funeral plan, and say, can we not just give you the money now? And say, no, we can't. It's not legal. We can't do that. But it is. And like I say, even young people are coming, whether they're paying like £50 a month or whatever it turns out to be over the time period. Obviously, it depends on how old you are as to how long a time you can pay it off over. But it is, if you think you're putting £50 away every month and that you knew that security for your family, at the end of the day, your funeral is going to be paid for. Because lots of people come and say, we haven't got any money, what do we do? And the thing is, you can't help everybody, in that sense. And I think I am soft at times, and my hubby used to say, you'll never make a businesswoman. Because I think, we'll just, we are. When somebody is genuinely struggling, we help them as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. And then there's obviously a bit of a taboo, isn't there, about funerals and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Why? Obviously, it's probably quite obvious why it is, but why do you think it is? And then how do you think we can get over that?
Yeah, I think, people don't talk about death, do they, at all? And I think, the whole thing at the minute, they're trying to put in the curriculum things about, suicide and different things like that. And they're trying to talk about death and things, which it's going to happen to us all, isn't it? And it's mad because you think, why would you not talk about something? And even like I say, I have my mum's wishes at home, but it's I don't know. I think in schools and things, it should be talked about because they talk about everything else, don't they?
Oh, yeah, everything else.
It's going to happen. And the thing is, there's no guarantee on when you're going to die or what age you are. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and most people that come to see us, they've never experienced death before. They've never had to arrange a funeral before. And it's like, well, what do we do?
Yeah, because I've never experienced anyone die in my family because my grandparents died before I was born. The only one's like a dog. I've had a dog die. That was sad, yeah. But that's a thing, like, people will be so upset, won't they, and won't know what to do, and to be able to arrange something so quick.
Depending on the circumstances, you know, if somebody's just lost a child or lost a loved one, you know, really horrifically or something, your head just goes, you know, it's like, what do I do? But I think it should be talked about because then I think, you know, like we've got lots of books here, you know, that are mummy, daddy, brother, sister, and it should be talked about. And that's like another thing we do. We do lots of things if there's children involved. You know, we have memory boxes made and different things, and we do as much as we possibly can. But it shouldn't be taboo because every single one of us is going to die.
Yeah. How do you think we can change that? Is there anything like we could do as a whole, or do you think it's mainly down to like the schools or?
I don't know. I think everybody shouldn't they?
It's a difficult one because, like, say I remember at primary school, you do like sex education and stuff, and like, why are you learning about that when you're like 10 years old? But then the one thing that's guaranteed is you're going to die, aren't you?
And chances are, even when you're at school, you may lose your grandparents. You might, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's no guarantee on what age you are when you're going to lose someone. But I was 14 when my granddad died. I wasn't having sex.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, though. Like, you know everything about that, but then when that happens, you're like, oh, this is weird.
I know. And I think as well, I have a friend who's a child bereavement counsellor, and he's like, you should talk to children, you know, you should tell them things because it's the things you don't tell them that they remember. And even when I said to you, and my granddad died and I was 14, and I was like, I want to go and see him. And having been in that situation when my dad died with Matthew was 13. Now, he didn't ask to see him, so we didn't have the conversation. But I've had families in here before that have said, oh, my daughter wants to come and see my mum. And I was like, how do you feel about it? She said, oh, no, I'm going to let her come because I wasn't allowed to come when I was 14 or whatever. And it is hard. And don't get me wrong, there is that whole, sometimes people will say, oh, do you think I should come and see mum? So, well, it's personal choice, but you can't unsee what you've seen. Yeah. So once it's there, it is a hard one.
It's hard, yeah. And then, what's more popular at the moment for you than burial or cremation?
Cremation, cremation.
Is it because of like the keepsakes and stuff like that, or?
I think. I don't know. I think.
It's just
I think cost is one thing, but I don't know. More and more people are being cremated. I think burials tend to be. Obviously, we're in a village, so we do a lot of funerals in village cemeteries and things. I think traditions changed. Yeah, but I think definitely I would say 85% of cremations. Okay. Yeah, just obviously, and it also depends on, say, you know, well, mum was buried, so dad's getting buried. Yeah. But I do think it's changing. But yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the cost to get buried is a fortune.
Yeah, it's so expensive. Yeah. What do people do with the cremated remains of the ashes then? Is it mainly like jewellery or urns or?
I mean, I think like obviously at Carlisle Cemetery, there's the options of the gardens, January to December. You can have a cremated remains grave, so the ashes could go in a grave where you have a headstone. Some of my dad is in the July garden where my grandparents, not his mum and dad, my mum's mum and dad, some of him is there. Yeah, people have tattoos made and all kinds of things. But yeah, jewellery, even like we've got a teddy bear over there, but there's ashes, not in that one, but it's a sample. Ashes inside the teddy bear's heart.
Oh, that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, but it is strange, isn't it? Because sometimes I'll go through a list of different things with families, you know, saying, do you want any handprints? And they're like, what? Or do you want any locks of hair? Do you want any ashes kept back? And it's strange because sometimes people are, we want this made, this made, this made. So I have a family at the minute that have had some beautiful handprint bracelets made, a bit like the bracelet that I've got on, but with a handprint on the heart. And it'll maybe say mum or sister or whatever, which is nice because you're not physically taking anything from them with that handprint. But whereas some people really do want things made with ashes and some people are like, no. Yeah. And again, it's personal choice, isn't it?
So many options these days, isn't there?
Yeah.
So then what's the plan next then for the business, would you say?
So now we've got 19 staff.
That's a lot, isn't it? Yeah. So from going from yourself to 19.
I know. And even like when I started paying wages, like, oh my God, I pay people.
Yeah. That's scary though, isn't it? The first one.
Oh yeah. When your HMRC bill comes at the minute, it's like, whoa. But, well, actually, somebody today has just been in one of, the guy is the guy from Coleman Mill where we get our hearse and limo from. And he's like, oh, another branch yet. And to be fair, I don't think I would set up another branch because the thing is, there's 3 funeral directors here now and a trainee. And I think, we can do 3 funerals a day easily. We have done 4 at a push. But I think if you set up another branch, you lose the personality, you lose the personal touch. I wouldn't be there. And I just think I like to keep, I don't know, I just like to keep it where I know what's happening. I know who's who. If we've got another branch, I just think you lose the personal side of things. And I think sometimes, and one thing I've found difficult in the business is sometimes people will ring and say we tend to try and split our workload out between me and Claire and Peter. But sometimes people will ring and say, I want Jill. Sometimes people will ring and say, I want Peter. And eventually Claire's been here a while now, and Claire's had a family that have come back to Claire. And obviously we always look after, so a family we've looked after before, if somebody rang in, we always look after our own family as we would. We've got lots of families. But, when a new funeral comes in, we tend to try and share it out so we have similar workloads, but it never works out like that. Sometimes I'm like, I've got 11 funerals on and Peter might have 5.
Yeah.
And that's hard sometimes. But yeah, next steps is just to carry on as we are. And I mean, we put a lot of money back into the business. Like when I first set up, we used to hire our vehicles, and then I think it was after about the first year, we went to the National Funeral Exhibition, and there was all these brand new hearse, brand new limos. Like, who could ever afford them?
They're so expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, so we bought in 2021. We got a brand new limousine, and it was a ex-demo hearse. And the Mercedes are beautiful. Yeah. And that's the guy who was just before asking if I was going to set up another branch. Probably to see when I'm thinking of changing them again. Yeah. But no, I don't think. I think just keep going the way we're going, keep doing like the best that we possibly can for families. Yeah, and keep, we've got a fantastic reputation. We've won so many awards, and even that's just like totally humbling, and think, do you know what, we are doing something right.
What awards have you won?
Oh gosh, so obviously I'm Cumbria Woman of the Year.
Yes.
We won Best New Business of the Year 2020. God, you're testing me now.
During the pandemic downstairs. As well.
Yeah. Let me think. Peter's won an award with Golden Charter. Oh gosh. I'd have to go downstairs.
Yeah,
I didn't write them out. I'd have to go downstairs and have a look. Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
I think from 2020 we've won an award every year.
That's impressive. Yeah, well done. Yeah.
And we're rated number 1 of the top 3 funeral directors in Carlisle as well.
Oh, that's class. Yeah.
Which is good.
So, was it what you expected the business then? Because like you say, you never really wanted your own business. What was it? Was it exactly or more, or probably a lot harder?
I don't know. I mean, like I say, when we went into it from the start, I don't know what I thought it was going to be, how I thought it would. Because I did think, what if people don't come to us? Then what happens? But the worst thing that could happen is it didn't work and we shut, and I got a job.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It worked and it worked and it worked and worked and. I don't know. It is a dream come true. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long, long time. I think probably the reality of it at the very start was I didn't think I'd be doing 14-hour days every single day. Yeah, I think, and the whole thing of, when I worked for the other company, you went home at 5 o'clock, you didn't go back to work till the next day and you switched off unless you were on call. But even the funeral directors here now, we'll be emailing each other tonight and said, you don't switch off. And I think when it is independent and there is no rules, as in you finish at 5 and you go home and you come back at 9 o'clock or whatever, I don't know. And I think because you never know what's going to happen during the night. So say we've got a lot of work on at the minute, but you like, and my hubby will sometimes say, well, you put the laptop away. So you don't know what's going to happen in the night. So I'd rather be on top of things, and then whatever happens in the night, and then when I come in the morning, I'm sorted.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then, how have you developed that like family feeling, that independent feeling, the culture within the teams? Obviously, 19 members of staff is a decent amount of people, and obviously having a few people in your team's easier because you can have that personal relationship, speak to them every day.
Oh yeah.
And then having that bigger team, then how have you built that culture?
Yeah. So we have a group called the A Team.
Oh,
we have a group on Messenger, on our Messenger.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we are like one big happy family. And I think because during the day, so there's normally sort of like Julie and Russell in the office in there. There's me, Peter, Claire, Robbie. in the other office, there's the 2 girls downstairs. Obviously, the bearers, so like today we've had 2 funerals, so the bearers will come in, so the four of them will come in. The vehicles are kept at our house, so they go and they've obviously got keys to the garage and stuff, but they would go drop the cars off, get the cars, come here, they all have a cup of coffee, stick their heads in. And we do a lot outside of work. Like we went axe throwing recently.
Cool.
We tend to, so when it's our anniversary, we always take them out for a meal. Whatever the date near the 8th of October is, we always go out. When it's Christmas, we always go out. We try and do stuff and like I say, like axe throwing or just different things. We'll go to things. But we do, I should say me and Russell because it's our business, but we look after the staff well. If you go in our kitchen, you'll see. But it is, we do look after the staff well. We all get on really well. And even things like, if staff need anything, any help, any support, do come to us. We've helped staff out with different things for different reasons in different ways. But we do. And that's why having another branch, I don't think would work because it's so separate where we are. And we have regular meetings in here and things. And that everybody gets on really well, which we're lucky. I have very, very good staff.
And then last thing before we go into the last section. So you mentioned earlier about the cards you get back for the feedback from so what things have you done to go like above and beyond for the families that they've given you a really kind message and the card about anything?
Put me under pressure.
I know.
Even like let's say for instance, a family's coming in to see their dad. So we're looking after a man at the minute and he has very specific hair. And one of the daughters, I think, thought she was going to bring stuff in to sort of do his hair and stuff. And when they went in, and I think when you show a family in that chapel room and you hear them say, "Oh, Dad, but it just looks like Dad." And they'll come out and say, "You brought my dad back again." They've maybe seen Dad in the hospice, in the hospital, in his pajamas. He hasn't had his hair washed for 2 weeks. He needs a shave. And that, do you know what I mean? Even just, I think normally it's sort of, you made a really difficult time so much easier. And just the little things even say, people will come in and I'll be like, he needs his eyebrows trimmed. He needs his fingernails cut. Certain things. And a family will go in and say, "Oh, you've cut Dad's nails." Or just even I once remember saying to a family, he'll be washed fully from head to toe. Is he usually clean shaven? We'll shave him. We'll cut his toenails, his fingernails. They're like, "Will you really cut his toenails?" We're like, "Yeah." And like say they were meant to have the podiatrist come in and they couldn't come. And it's just little things, like total little details. Even like getting someone ready and saying, like, my hair's not that I've got much, is brushed to that side. Well, if you came in here and my hair was that way, it's like, Jill doesn't wear a hair like that. Just taking note of every tiny, weeny little detail and things that they maybe think you haven't even taken notice of. I don't know, let's say they say something like, I don't know, a specific, I don't know, that Dad really liked music or something. Even like in their order of service, putting some little musical notes on it, dotted around. It just listening, taking notice of what they're telling you and then like acting upon it. And
just caring and showing an interest, isn't it? Yeah. It goes a long way. So then let's go on to the next bit then. So what makes Jill happy fundamentally? If we break it down, what makes you happy?
My husband. I am very, very lucky. Russell is amazing. He's the nicest, kindest, tolerant. Because I'm probably a pain. No, he is. He's absolutely amazing. Russell isn't my children's dad. But they're like, my ex-husband, we get on very, very well. But my family. Obviously, I lost my dad really suddenly, maybe 2 years in August, and sort of makes you puts things into perspective. I need to slow down a little bit and put more time out for me. I have mind. It's funny because I have started going to. Well, I've been going to BC Fitness. I go to the gym. I go 3 times a week, sometimes 4. When I had COVID again for the 3rd time, totally set me back again. And I was actually diagnosed with MS last year.
Okay.
So that was a big thing for me as well. So I think like during COVID, obviously we had COVID, which was horrendous. My dad died really suddenly. I've been having tests for like 18 months, and I think everything was just like, and I think. I'm not ready to deal with that just yet, but I think like I say, go to the gym. Going to the gym is good for up there. I'm not good with my own company, and I do get myself down at times. I've always been like that, even when I was younger, nothing to do with the job that I do, because to be fair, the job that I do makes me happy, and to do something for someone else, that's my reward when they say, "Oh God," and everything's gone perfect. That makes me happy. My kids, my staff being happy, my staff, we don't, we've maybe seen a couple of staff go, but for different reasons. You know, one girl, she only worked part-time. She wanted to buy a house and things, and there wasn't a full-time role at the time. But my staff are happy. It's not like coming here. It's not like coming to work. It's just, and like I say, I think I'm quite a decent boss. And if they say, "Oh, can I come in late? I've got whatever," you know, I don't know. I love coming here. Love my family. Love my husband. And I'm just generally happy.
Yeah. I can see how like passionate you are and like your eyes light up and that kind of thing, which is nice to see. And the thing I'm going to spring upon you, I did remind you at the start, didn't I? What do you think your biggest strength is and your greatest weakness?
My weakness in life generally, the business I'm not in the business is I'm too soft.
Why?
I don't know. The thing is, I wouldn't change the person that I am, and things that I've experienced in my life have made me who I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I do take things to heart. I wouldn't say I worry as much about what people think now as I did when I was younger, because people are cruel, and I found a lot of jealousy with the business, and it used to really upset me. But now I just think I'm not bothered, and if people don't like me, they don't like me. But I am soft and I do take things to heart. I would do anything for anybody at all. If you rang me tonight and said, I don't know, whatever, I don't know, but I would genuinely, if somebody came to me and said, I need some help, I would drop everything and go if I could go, which I don't know whether that's probably a weakness and a strength. Yeah. Because it's nice to be nice.
Good karma. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, definitely. God, I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, it's like you're saying at the start though, you love helping people, don't you? It's just what you are.
I would do anything for
just who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So it is a weakness at some stages, but it's probably your biggest strength as well at the same time.
And even like when I said to you about being bullied at school and things, like it's awful, it's cruel, and it probably has made me who I am. Sometimes I wish I wasn't as soft as I am, because I am soft and I do take things to heart. And even when I left pathology, it was funny because the girls that I used to work with had worked with for 20 odd years, and one of them said, "Jill, how are you going to be a funeral director and not cry?" And don't get us wrong in here. You know, if anybody says who cries the most in here, it's me. Honestly, not a funeral day, I don't. Unless, there is times when it is very difficult and it is very hard and it is upsetting. And I've seen Peter cry at the back of a funeral. Not obviously really emotionally cry, but keep it under control cry. Yeah.
Biggest strength then? What do you think? It's hard to self-reflect, isn't it?
If I set my mind to do something, I'll do it. And I'll do it best of my ability. I will. If somebody said you've got to do that, I will do it. Yeah. So I'd say, don't know. And obviously I've had to, I think, looking after my dad here. Gonna cry.
It's fine. Don't worry.
Ask me something else.
Yeah, right. So the last part is just plug in, so where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you, like about the pre-planned funerals, and get in touch and that kind of thing, really, about the business.
We're at 16 The Square in Dalston. Our phone number is 01228 317 373. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We've got a website, obviously, which is just Jill Glencross Funeral Director. Yeah, and we're here 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of funeral plans, it's Golden Charter funeral plans, but people can obviously just give us a ring and we would go out and see them, or they can come here.
Perfect. Right. Really, really enjoyed that today. That was amazing. Yeah. No, honestly, it was so
legs gone to sleep.
Interesting to hear how passionate you were about it.
I love this place.
And that kind of thing.
Probably too much.
So right, everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, like the video, comment your favourite part, any questions for Jill. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And see you next time. Bye.